Welcome to That Entrepreneur Life, a podcast about entrepreneurship that takes you from idea to launch and beyond. Each week, your hosts, Andrew Lees and Clint McPherson, discuss different business topics aimed at adding value to any entrepreneur's journey.
All right. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of That Entrepreneur Life. I'm Andrew Lees, and I'm here, as always, with my co-host, Clint McPherson. What's up, brother?
Not much, my man. You know, last week was a little odd for us. I mean, we've been cranking out episodes after episode, and we had a little bit of off time, right? Somebody canceled on us last minute, so it gave us some free time. Didn't know what to do with myself at the time, right? Outside of pushing my digital marketing agency a little harder, but outside of that, man, just continue to live that entrepreneurial life. But with that said, dude, I don't even want to waste any more time. Let's go ahead and kick this thing off by welcoming our special guest, Arjun Rai, to the show. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Awesome. Yeah, thanks so much, Arjun, for being on the show. We're really excited to have you on here and ask you some questions. But before we do, can you just give us a little, give our audience a little background about yourself and tell us who you are?
Yeah, absolutely. So, hey everyone, my name is Arjun, like Argentina without the Tina. That's my name. I've been a founder for almost 12 years. I've been, been a serial entrepreneur. Built 2 venture-backed companies, 2, kind of like small agencies, small startups before that. As far as I can remember, I've always tried selling something or the other and drove my parents insane. Mostly selling things for a quarter. I was very fascinated with the quarter and the idea of selling things, even if it was a big furniture or a small necklace in India, which again was the wrong currency because 25 cents or a quarter in India doesn't mean anything unless you want to convert it. But I didn't know any better. But anyway, I always had the entrepreneur bug, and today we're looking to support, I would say, the other, entrepreneurial bug, driven people around the world, as small as the small businesses, for the price of a cup of coffee. So we can talk about HelloWoofy later on, but our whole mandate is to support the underdog, and anything we can do to help them is what is going to drive us going forward.
I love that, man. I think you basically verbalize why I started my digital marketing agency, right? For the small business, for the underdog, for the mom and pop store that basically gets overlooked by some people. And then even the larger businesses having them as clients, they still are that small fish in this huge ocean that they kind of overlook, they take advantage of, and basically just pinpoint those specific metrics that they think, or they want to highlight and pull the wool over the business owner's eyes at the end of the day and not really show them that ROI. And I think that does the small business a huge displeasure and a huge injustice, because the small businesses don't know what they don't know, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. No, here's the thing, right? So the largest companies in your category, and I don't care if you're in bakery, you have a bigger baker, person down the street that has a bigger bakery than you, or you're in telecom and you're seeing 2 other telecom companies gobble each other up and become the biggest in the industry, right? You always have a bigger competitor with a bigger budget and unlimited people working on their marketing and advertising and things of that nature. Well, that's great, but what about the underdog marketeer that's just getting started, right? They're not making 6 figures, they're making 5 figures. So they're inching up into 6 figures, getting into the 7-figure market. They don't, like you said, they don't know marketing. They don't know advertising. They know how to make a great cake and have, people running after them to, make the cakes for them for, whatever they need, or small businesses, the carpenters of the world. And they don't know how to do social media marketing. And so we were like, we need to help all of these, individuals with a product that kind of uses artificial intelligence to take over the grunt work so they can focus on what they enjoy, which is running their business and doing all the storytelling. Not about, how many posts they can crank out, how many hashtags are being used, which hashtags are being used, who's designing the graphics, where are the graphics, what hashtags will go well with the graphics. It's almost like, if you want to go from New York to San Francisco, you just want to get to San Francisco, right? You don't want to have to build a car, make sure the wheels fit, make sure the tires are on. You just want to go there. And if you have a Tesla, which is what we kind of compare ourselves to, which has autopilot, you could just read a book on your way there and get work done.
So when you come down to it, and you did mention it briefly, but this is our first official question that we want to really kick off. You being the founder of Fuelbright, which was a digital marketing agency, I think back in 2012, right? To where you are today as a founder and CEO of obviously multiple companies, but HelloWoofy in general. Can you take us back to where your entrepreneurial journey started, and what is it about entrepreneurship that keeps that fire burning within you, man?
Yeah, I'm also, I would say more than anything, I've always been an inventor. I've always wanted to build things with electronics, with, wood. There was a teacher, his name was Mr. Kraskowski in 8th grade. He got me into, carpentry essentially. And I still do carpentry today. I have a whole bunch of inventions in the living room. I have like a projector on a rail that I can, go from 150 inches to 80 inches of screen size. I have a self-cleaning litter box for my cats that, has motion detectors inside, has HEPA filters on the other side, and has a leather seating on top. And as soon as you open it, lights turn on, and so the cats can see where they're going. So there are little, inventions here and there. I love, I just love building stuff. And I got to a point where I was like, how do I start making money out of the things I'm building, right? Because I can remember as early as age 7 or 6, I was at a wedding, and I remember all of these. If you've ever been to an Indian wedding, you know that there's like the whole town's worth of flowers are at one wedding, and so I was seeing all these flowers getting thrown out. I was like, why don't I pick these up and start selling them, turning them into like Hawaiian necklaces and selling them for $0.25 at my grandmother's gate. Now my grandmother's gate happened to be in India, and so the currency was mismatched, but I was trying to sell things anyways. And then slowly but surely, I started building, websites and teaching myself the code, learn how to do HTML, CSS in 7th grade. Just, kept going further and further, started networking with people in high school. I called up, some of the most amazing, well-known people who you'll see in publications every day while I was in high school. I was using the principal's phone. I was using the principal's conference room. He was very nice to support me with that. And I started building, started networking, and that led me to New York about 8 years ago now, 9 years ago. Coming here, I wanted to make it in New York. And my budget was like $900, and $700 of that was like for rent. $20 was for utilities, and everything else was for food or subways, or I walked. And then slowly, obviously, I built my way up to where we are today, where I have my own little 1-bedroom office.
That's great. Yeah, New York is an interesting city. Definitely you've really got it takes a lot more to get to get what you need in a city like that. But man, the energy is unparalleled.
Yep. It's one of those places I encourage people to move to if you have ambitions and you want to 10x your ambitions. If you want to meet people who are like that as well, and be okay with people challenging you, because that's the energy that I love. I love people. Just even if you go down the block, you see people who are hustling and working away, and at the same time their families around there. There's a lot of emotions around, and you have to be in the same place at the same time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. So what was it about, about software, about like you obviously have this inventive spirit, and you're coming up with these physical product ideas, which I think is cool. I own a physical product development company. But what is it about software and programming, and, why get into that instead of maybe physical products?
Yeah, so the benefit of this is that you can get a lot of support from investors and tech companies like Google and Amazon in terms of server credits and things of that nature. Scaling up is very easy in terms of software. You could build a simple web app. I mean, you could be a TikTok, for example, a simple app, and all you need is just more servers. When you're doing, as you know, when you're doing hardware, you need molds. If you're doing 3D printing, you need the 3D printers themselves. And you need not the small ones, but like the big ones. You need insurance. You need people here in the U.S. Our team is distributed across the world. So there are a lot of benefits of building a software company. And the most important one is that your customers could be anywhere in the world. You could be anywhere in the world, and making a dent in the universe, essentially, without having to set up all of these fixed costs from the get-go. Now, that's not to say you shouldn't, I would never do a hardware company. I would probably do a hardware company at some point. But today, we're building artificial intelligence, and we're building it into social media and marketing in general. That's a very online-driven community, a way of marketing a business. So we're not printing flyers right now, or using AI to print flyers, or mailing mailers, if you will. Back in the days, remember those coupons you used to receive? Where we might use AI to optimize the perforation along the sides, but we'll maybe later on.
Yeah. People are still printing things and shoving them in newspapers for some reason. I'm not sure who's reading that stuff, but yeah, I think if you're keeping up with the times, you're definitely moving online. And I love how you're integrating AI, because I think AI is the future. Not everything will be automated, and that's not the point. But there's so many things that you look at where it's just like, that should be automated. I don't want to spend any more time doing that. That should be automated. And if you look at the advancement in technology throughout history, we've made advances. Every time we make an advancement, like I have CAD software that I use to design products, and it's not using, it's at least what I use right now, it's not really using AI, but there's all these things that make it a lot easier. But that doesn't mean that, what that means is that we can do more complicated and bigger scope projects faster, so that just helps the advancement of everything. It's not like, oh, we just get everything done in 2 seconds now, and like, what else is there to do? It just helps us progress.
And I love space and conspiracy theories and things of that nature. If you know a guy named Michio Kaku, he talks about how we're how there is a type 1 civilization, there's a type 2, there's a type 3 civilization, right? Everything you just said in terms of like progressing forward, Andrew, is exactly what we're trying to do, is inch towards a type 1 civilization, which is doing more complicated things faster, doing more complex things, with less resources. And so we can do those things across the world, not just in the most developed countries, but, in every country across the world. And so I do believe we're going to be living a Star Trek kind of world. If you take the sci-fi aspect and the sci-fi aspects, fantasy aspects out, it's a very interesting way of running a globalized planet and a government system, right? Where everything is unified and people are very much focused on meritocracy. They're focused on what they can put into society and what can come out of it as a benefit. And so we'll see how society melds together. I mean, if you take a look at that 200 years ago, you would never imagine countries working together. Today we have the United Nations. Tomorrow we might have Starfleet. We'll see what ends up happening. But it's the entrepreneurs who are going to do it. They are the ones who figure things out. I mean, take Elon for example. There was a video I was watching online. He was in 6 years for under $1 billion. He was able to get humans from Earth to space and back safely. Right? That's incredible, and it's a reusable rocket. If NASA, so there was a thought leader at NASA, an expert, and he said it would cost us 12 years and $26 billion, and that was like the expert opinion. And the guy on the video, I forget his name, he was talking about like, you could just leave it to an entrepreneur; they will figure out how to get there and actually have fun and have fun.
Right. That should be part of it too, and I think part of that is the scrappiness of an entrepreneur. When you start something from scratch, you know how to use every single dollar as efficiently as you possibly can, because you don't know where the next dollar is coming from necessarily. And if you just are, I think it would be easy to be, let's say, doing marketing for a huge corporation. You just walk in and they're like, hey, your budget is $10 million this year. What can you do? It's like, can do a lot with $10 million. That's easy. There's no challenge to that. Right. So, but there's a challenge in figuring out, how do I take, $1, turn it into 10, and just keep scaling up, putting money back into the company without cash starving it, but also supporting yourself and doing all these things, being super creative with money. And yeah, I think that's what gives entrepreneurs that advantage over, there's no time for complacency. So I think that's a cool point. So you've launched a bunch of SaaS companies and, or several, and you're working on, obviously you're focused right now on HelloWoofy. A lot of tech companies out there are sort of running right towards venture capital, or, maybe they're starting with angel investment and then they're working their way up to venture capital. Have you gone through that process at all with any of your startups? And what's your feeling on that versus maybe bootstrapping?
So I always like to say if you're getting started, the best that you can do for your business in terms of valuation or in terms of even figuring out if it's worth your time or if it's worth your the person you're talking to who might be a customer and their time, because you want to make sure that the solution you're building is helping them, it's making you money, and if you have investors, increasing value of the brand or the company itself over time, right? So if you don't have an MVP and you just have a PDF with an idea. In fact, you might not even have the PDF. You might just have an idea in your mind. That's not helpful to anyone because other people can't visualize it. Other people can't invest in it because you may have not even incorporated. So there are a couple of elements of things you need to do before you can get into raising capital. And you're talking about angel investment and venture capital. They definitely need to see a little bit of traction, at least some effort on your side, right? So first thing I'll recommend is get an MVP built. Hire someone on Upwork or Fiverr. If it's an app, get it built for under $1,000. It doesn't have to have the most shiny latest features and whatnot. Just get it up and running. Get some sort of a backend where you have a database and you can start having users use it, and then scale up from there. You could use tools like Firebase to get up and running, and you don't need a whole infrastructure. You can get a couple $100 of credits from Google or Amazon. Hustle your way through. We actually just hustled our way through to Google's CEO, Google Cloud CEO, to see what they could do in terms of helping us during COVID, because they were Google's been offering a lot of help to startups. So once you have something that you can share, then it's easier to get people like that to start looking at it and saying, yeah, I want to be able to help you. Otherwise, there's so many people asking for handouts, right? If you're going to be asking for anything, you need to show value and show that you're providing value to some other people. In our case, 5,200 small businesses who really depend on our product. So that's not one thing. Now, once you have that ready to go, start networking. In fact, before that, start networking with potential investors and start telling them that, hey, I'm working on this. I'd love to keep you updated over the course of 6 months. And in the 6 months period, you should have done your customer discovery. You should have gotten your MVP up and running, your business deck. Of course, you should have incorporated as well. Get all your IP and legal stuff taken care of. Use LegalZoom, and then once you're more established, have a really experienced lawyer take a look at what else you could be doing to make the foundations even stronger. And then at the end of 6 months, then start saying, this is what I've done. This is the traction I received. This is the feedback I received. I'd love to raise 100K, a small angel round, to be able to scale this up. And then 12 months from that point, depending on how you do, you might be able to raise 250 or to 500K in funding from a venture fund, a small venture fund, or a bunch of angel groups or angel investors. Now, we did all of that, but we also did something called Reg CF, which is raising capital from the crowd. And so if your audience may have heard of Republic or Start Engine and WeFunders, Seed Invest, these are great platforms to raise capital for your brand if you have a community. So in our case, we have a very loyal, excited community of small business owners, the smallest of small businesses. These are virtual assistants, freelancers, gig economy workers, mom and pop stores. These are people who, love storytelling and they love talking about their brand. And that's the kind of following that end up investing in our first campaign at the end of the beginning of this year. And we just launched another campaign about, 2 months ago. And in both campaigns, we've had customers invest. So if you can imagine 20 years ago, people putting $100 into Microsoft, they would have done a lot, they would have done really well, right? Because they were users of Microsoft products. They couldn't invest in the company back then. So we're kind of taking that mindset so once you're done with that, the 12-month period, then you're at a stronger position to raise additional capital. And Reg CF platforms will love you at that point because you have, institutional capital, you have traction, you have people backing you. It's a lot better story than saying, hey, I have an idea, invest in me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. What do you think about programs like Y Combinator and Techstars, or how familiar are you with those kind of things? Have you ever looked into them, or what's your feeling on those?
I have issues with the valuations that Jason Calacanis has at launch. Techstars has something similar. They're all sub 2 million, 3 million valuation, and they're almost in all cases between 1 to 2 million in valuation. They say they add a lot of value. We've been through one accelerator and it was a complete waste of time. We're in another accelerator right now, which is actually interesting. They have a different model. in terms of the way they operate. And so far we love them. It's called New Chip out of Austin, Texas, and we love their model. We love how excited they are about our story and everything. So it just depends on in terms of where you are and what stance you are. Like getting Y Combinator, even to put $1 into your company, pretty much puts a stamp of approval, where Sandhill Road will come after you and try to put in more capital in order to follow on, right? But if you have a Techstars, which is kind of diluted in my opinion at this point, because they're everywhere and anywhere in terms of they'll partner with anyone and have a co-branded accelerator across the board, I would probably look at accelerators that are focused on your niche. If you're talking about hardware, right? Bob Greenberg partnered with Techstars, and now they're doing their own thing with RGA Ventures. They have their own hardware, accelerator. Start going into more niche organizations that can provide value, but also connections, and they're not so diluted across the board. One of the accelerator we went to, not only was it not a great experience, but they ended up spreading themselves so thin across the board that they were not adding value to at least our company. I don't know about any other of the other startups, but you want to go with less is more, and go along that route. But also take a look at the terms and conditions of the investment. You have to be very careful of what they're providing you, what terms they're providing you. You definitely have a legal counsel take a look at it.
What valuation you're getting? If you're taking a certain amount of funding on a convertible note, what does that mean? And how do you, at the end of the day, are you left with a lot less equity than you thought you might be?
Yep.
So
common shares versus preferred shares. You want to see if they're, you're giving them the right to invest in the next round, in which case, it's great you're getting more money from the same investor, but that means they're also owning a larger portion of the cap table, unless they're just putting in money to keep it at the same level in terms of preventing themselves from getting diluted. These are all things you can, I would encourage your audience to take a look at online and start Googling and researching and finding real venture capitalists who are talking about these things. I mean, one of my favorite investors is Brian Cohen, and he wrote a book called What Every Angel Investor Wants You to Know. Read it over and over again. If you want sales help, read Grant Cardone's book called The Closer's Survival Guide. If you want, hacks on, sales funnels and, building a community, take a look at Traffic Secrets or Expert Secrets from Russell Brunson. Those are probably my 3 favorite books that I'll mention right now, just off the top of my head.
I love the knowledge that you're just dropping down on our audience right now, man. I know, guys, if you're not following what Arjun is saying, you're going to have to listen to this several different times, because I know we're talking fast and we're going through this because we have some knowledge around this, but he's not talking out of his ass right now, guys. He's been through this. This is why I'm so passionate I was so passionate to get you on and reaching out to you, just because I knew you were going to bring this to our show. So guys, like I said, if you're having trouble following what we're talking about, just take action on it, right? Start doing your own research and just listen and break down each thing he's telling us, because again, he's been there and done that. So brother, I know, and we've already touched on this a little bit, that your mission is to support small businesses, right? Especially with the power of visualized data science for digital marketing in general, which makes the platforms like HelloWoofy, Woofy.ai, EmojiData.ai, WordData.ai. I mean, all of those are so unique in itself. And it's cool because how I'm seeing HelloWoofy come together, it seems like you're trying to leverage and tie all of this stuff in to just make things so much more simplistic and faster. Obviously, there's steps that you got to obviously go through and know what to do. You can't just jump on it and, if you don't know what you're doing, you can mess it up. But at the end of the day, you've made it so, and I get so excited when I jump on HelloWoofy, because you can knock out something so quickly. And the demo you give is just so high quality. And with that said, though, before we get into a demo or before you do a screen share or however you want to take it, what's the specific pain point that you are actually solving with these platforms? And how exciting, man, because dude, I see you posting, and the cool thing about you're unique in that you're actually reaching out to people when they ask questions, and you're like, send them a personalized video. And that is so powerful. But back to my question, what's the specific pain point that you're solving with these platforms, and how exciting is this journey been for you when you started to leverage the power of artificial intelligence?
The journey is interesting because, and you mentioned this, we love talking to customers. We love figuring out what's working for them, what isn't working for them. And we're kind of, I mean, our competitors are building a new business maybe every 2 years or every year. Their sprints are, obviously massively long. Our sprints are every week. We're trying to build a new business every 30 days, basically. And we're trying to say, where will Chris and Clint be in the next 5 years? And if I can help them, save the time in terms of the wisdom you need to gather over the course of 5 years, so I can give you all that wisdom today, times it by 1 million people, 100 million people in terms of the data science and the data itself, and give you all that at your fingertips for the price of a cup of coffee, like $4 a month, $5 a month. That means you have a huge advantage to, or at least leveling the playing field when it comes to the biggest podcasts or the biggest marketing agency that's, trying to squash you, tomorrow. You can actually say, no, I'm going to focus on I actually have time to find new clients, not just spend all my time catering to the existing clients, right? And so if AI can help you, and if you don't believe in pure automation, I want to be very clear, and a lot of the platforms will agree in their terms of service, they don't want bots talking to bots. We want at the end of the day, you're going to be sitting in a Tesla. You kind of have to be in a Tesla itself. Like you're not going to have empty cars going across town or across the country, maybe across across town, getting from one apartment to the other. But the point is, the value is getting a human being from one place to the other and getting goods and stories from one place to the other, right? It's just from your mind to the social platform. We're about to deploy something that goes off exactly that. It was the world's first Amazon Alexa scheduler. We're already in touch with Amazon Alexa and the division at Amazon to kind of go to market with, and we're still trying to figure out what that means with leveraging our connections there. But the idea is, for the first time, you'll be able to schedule content directly into the living rooms of your fans, your customers, your listeners who are stuck at home with COVID. And then it's going to be like this for quite some time. We have to think about, how are we getting content out there? How are we distributing marketing messages? How are we getting stories into into people's hands who really need to listen to that, right? So you can kind of pray your tweets are going to come across, that people are going to see them. Your Facebook posts are going to go through, or your Facebook groups are going to be more engaging. That's all important. But what if I can now schedule videos and audio posts and text to audios, and all you have to say is you tell your customer, hey, ask for the HelloWoofy briefing. If I'm following the entrepreneur life, you could be on my TV right next to Netflix and Amazon Prime and BBC and CNN, and telling me your message for 2 minutes and getting me to listen to your full episode, which is going to come out probably a couple of days later. So that's coming out very soon, and we're using artificial intelligence just to simplify, and level the playing field for the underdog, so they can compete.
Yeah, that's very cool. It democratizes AI. Kind of democratizes a lot of things.
And it gives hope at the end of the day, right? Because what happened in, I guess, March now, when COVID really took off, a lot of businesses had to figure things out. I mean, a lot of restaurants shut down. I mean, if you have so many restaurants around here, some of the restaurants are into grocery stores. They had to iterate. They had to think on their feet and figure things out, right? Some grocery stores were like, we're going to use Seamless for delivering groceries because people are there. And I literally only know one grocery store on the entire Seamless platform that is delivering 24/7. And I'm like, that is amazing, because you're already there and you're not exactly going to the other delivery apps just to get groceries. I mean, except for Amazon Whole Foods relationship there. But I'm like, I need Haagen-Dazs at 11 o'clock at night. I can get it. It is literally the only place I can get it is Seamless. And it's one grocery store in the entire city of New York.
That's awesome. Yeah, that speaks to the companies that are able to pivot quickly are the ones that are going to win. And those when things change and they they go flying off and everything goes flying off in one direction, and that one company who's able to just roll with it and go, and everybody goes flying off and in the same direction they were going. That's so critical to kind of keep up with what's going on. So Arjun, we've talked about venture capital. We've talked about how you go through that process. What about, how do you get your first, with any startup, how do you get your first 100 customers? How do you get your first 1,000? And what's your growth mechanism? What's your growth strategy? To to scale your businesses from nothing to something, and then to, to a 6, 7, 8-figure business?
Sure. Yeah, no, I remember the early days. I was, reaching out to people on, freelancer platforms and saying, "Hey, we'll pay you because we want to make sure we're doing good by their standards and the platform standards." Where we were paying the minimum fees on, the freelancer platforms, saying, "Hey, would you just give us 10 minutes of your time? We'll pay you X amount as a customer discovery." And about, I would say, 70% of them ended up signing up for the first version of whatever we end up building, which is the iOS version of the social media scheduler. And so that was a lot of hustle, right? We were looking for social media marketers. We were looking for, bloggers. We were looking for content creators. And we hit up as many as possible. And we probably had about 25, 30 or so that signed up and started giving us feedback. And a lot of them are in the Content Masters Facebook group, which is great because they've seen how we've, iterated over the last 2 years. So that was, but of course that's not scalable, right? Because you have to manually do it, you scale up. We actually
you're talking about like raw, sorry to interrupt, but you're talking about like raw outreach, right?
Exactly.
Just manual reaching out to people. Will you purchase this? Will you be an early adopter and give us feedback?
Feedback first. I would say the other way around, because if you lead with, "Hey, you're an authority and I want to learn from you and I want to pay you to give me your feedback," it's a different dynamic than saying, "Hey, we're going to launch in like 30 days or 40 days, buy this and then give us feedback." We're kind of in that mindset now when people are buying and, people are reaching out to us on Facebook and whatnot. But the early days, you just want to give, and then ask, kind of like the Gary Vee approach, right? The right hook. So we did that for a couple of months. We started figuring out what's working, what's not working. We iterated, we changed from the iOS app to a desktop app. We had to gut the desktop app and restart from all over from scratch, because I had to, figure out that we had a lot of technical debt. We had to let go of people, including my co-founder. So that was interesting. We had 12,000 left in the bank, and we had to basically build a new company with 12K in the bank. And I mean, that was like 4 months of burn left. So long story short, we did that, and then AppSumo called us up and they were like, "Hey, we've heard about your company. We'd love for you to launch with us. Would you like to launch?" We launched with AppSumo towards the end of November of last year, but basically December. And within a couple of weeks, we had done about, I want to say, 20 to 30K in revenue. And we ended the partnership with AppSumo around February or so, and we've done since then on our own, we've done about $162,000 in revenue, and we're on track to doing about 300, 250 by the end of the year. And in the midst of all of this, a lot of things happened. We had to, like I said, we had to build a new company. I lost my mom just 2 months before the AppSumo deal launched. So it's interesting. It's interesting how entrepreneurs just have to keep crushing it. We have to keep moving forward, and no matter what happens. And I've been very blessed to have a girlfriend that supported me as well. Between her and me, we put in about 170K into the company on credit cards and savings and cash and whatnot. And we never knew if we were going to see any of it back. But obviously, this year we're going to do a little bit. Yeah, we're gonna kick it out of the ballpark.
Yeah, man. Well, with that said, man, I think this is a good point right here where we can transition to some screen share and to show our listeners are actually going to be viewers when we put this on YouTube, what HelloWoofy is all about, man. And how just like his sign says behind him,
we have a lot of respect
guys.
For all the companies out there that are social media schedulers. When Tesla was being built, they definitely knew that there was the Fords of the world that had huge legacy, the Chevys of the world and whatnot. But at the end of the day, if they're kind of stagnated, they're doing a disservice to the industry. And so we came out and said, enough is enough. We need to build products that are for marketers, built by marketers. You wouldn't give a chef a blunt knife, but if you take a look at a lot of tools out there, they tend to be very engineering. They tend to be very linearly designed. And who's using it at the end of the day? The most creative storytellers, the most creative visual-driven marketers, and they're like, this is not speaking to them, right? So in our platform, what you'll notice is there's a lot of white space. We wanted to make sure that you had the ability to think, almost breathe thinking, if that makes any sense, be able to think out loud of what you're going to be doing in the platform in terms of storytelling. Everything is also color driven. So for example, once you upload all of your content into the library and subdivide it into categories, one could be food related content, motivation tips, tips and tricks for business owners, whatever those categories would be, you can then launch campaigns, and those campaigns on the calendar will be shown in purple, indicating your long-term strategy. So for example, if you want to post, let's say every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, as a pattern, we want to do it every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we can turn on pattern schedule, which is on the top right, and you can be like, okay, we're going to run this campaign for, let's say, 2 weeks. So let's go ahead and say, when do we want to end this campaign? We'll end it on, maybe the following week on the 5th. So we pick the 5th. And so that's 6 days, 3 days this week, 3 days next week. We'll call it the entrepreneur life, motivation, quotes. We'll choose our social media platforms. You can do, Facebook group, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, whatever that may, whatever, suits you. We'll choose 9:30 in the morning. We'll choose motivation category. As you can see here, there are 10 pieces of content. We only need 6. And we'll have repeat same content turned on. And as soon as you click save, it'll automatically schedule it for you. And you can move those posts around individually, just simply using your finger or your cursor when you go into the calendar. The other cool thing is when you create single posts, those are your short-term, ad hoc posts that you're posting. What you'll notice immediately is that as soon as I'm typing, it's giving me recommendations of words and sentences I could be saying, or, if I'm saying, I love you, there you go, I love you. Of course, we love you, Clint and Andrew, and my coffee, right? So you can go ahead and complete that sentence there. Based on what I've typed in so far, it'll then give me emoji recommendations below, because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we're using the right emojis. And emojis are shown to drive significant, huge uplifts in engagement. So if you don't take my opinion, take a look at Adobe's research article, right? 58%, 44% uplifts in engagement. People are willing to buy more and be more trusting in the brand or the creator when they see emojis. The only issue is that there are 3,000 emojis. So it's nearly impossible to figure out, unless you have an entire team to figure out which ones are relevant. And so we actually figure out which ones are actually being used around the world in real time. So this is to show you almost like a stock trading symbol, right? When is the stock being traded, and who's, which stocks are being used the most? And so you can make a data-driven decision. And then once you're done with that, optimizing your emojis and whatnot, click on the purple dot, and it'll start finding images that are going to be relevant to what you enter so far. So let's find some coffee-related images. There are GIFs in here too. Based on what you upload, it'll then try to figure out hashtags for you that are going to be relevant. So it'll be probably caffeine and coffee and things of that nature. There we go. Coffee, it's a latte, caffeine, cafe au lait, and we're good to go. These are all my hashtags. Now, if I want to take an article, maybe I want to take the podcast itself when it's put up on the website, we can basically paste it in, and it'll start reading the page and giving you recommendations of quotes you could be using. Paste that quote in there. It's about online communities. It's about emojis. If I want to translate this into German, I can translate it in German as well if I wanted to. So the point is, it's a 24/7 agency right at your fingertips. If you're an agency, this gives you 10 times the ability to do more and get more clients, because you're not getting inundated with the grunt work that goes into doing the very little things, the grunt work that goes into posting. Now, when you're in the library, the other cool thing is when you upload graphics with words in it, like a quote or an advertisement. Here's an advertisement here about the Amazon Alexa schedule. There's a little paragraph on the top left. It'll literally transcribe everything from the image into text for you. So everything I'm highlighting was directly transcribed from the image on that little image over there. And then all I had to do was add emojis, add a couple of hashtags, and I was good to go. And then we were like, why don't we take this even one step further? Help a small business owner automate an entire blog post using the autocomplete technology. Allow them to upload it to their Medium account, to their WordPress account as a schedule. So you can actually schedule when to post it, and then automatically follow it up with a social media post to promote it. But then we took it one step further. We built a Google Chrome extension that allows you now to not only schedule and add content from anywhere on the internet through the 2 buttons that you're seeing here, but now imagine being able to autocomplete anywhere on the internet as well. So you can see here, I'm in Medium. I'm no longer in Word in HelloWoofy. So we have these lights blinking every time we have a new subscriber or a new sale. So that's what that just happened. And then it could be like, I love you and my coffee, for example. Same example. Double click, switch it out. Double click and switch it out, and you're good to go.
I have to say just real quick, man, this is a feature that I'm stoked about because I've been using the heck out of it on everything I've been doing.
Yep. You could be in Evernote and do the same thing as well. The point is we're saving you hours, days upon days of grunt work that you should be spending on, even if it's accounting, make sure your cash flow is sound. Even if it's getting more clients, make sure your biz dev is working, right? And the last thing I'll share you is, like we talked about this briefly before, is the Amazon Alexa scheduler, the first ever of its kind to allow anyone who has this device $30-$40, or you can go up to like $120 depending on what you're getting. Clint, you could become a broadcaster in someone else's living room so long as they opt in, and all they have to say is play the HelloWoofy briefing. Yeah, and then this is obviously the campaign we've been running. So we raised about, in the first campaign we raised 380,000, and this is the two combined. So if you want to learn about how we raise capital through using RexCF, definitely go up to republic.co/HelloWoofy, and you can take a look at that there.
That's so cool. Yeah, I mean, we could almost have a whole episode on just fundraising. That I mean, it's really cool, really interesting. All the different ways that you can get your business off the ground, especially for tech companies. So
the only thing I'll say is, Clint, thanks for being a part of the group. If there's anyone else who wants to be part of the group and tell us what they want us to build, what's working for them, what we need to improve, or even if you have a question, or maybe you just need to talk to someone as a small business owner, right? It's a very lonely life, sometimes when you're building a company day in and day out, grinding away. Just reach out to us. I'll be more than happy to personally jump on a 20-minute call with you and see what we can do.
Yeah, for sure. I can personally vouch for that because I was somebody that reached out. You gave me the demo, you gave me the walkthrough, and I was blown away then. But I mean, just to see how active you are actually in the group, right? A lot of people try to say, hey, join our group, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And then they never come on. But you are so unique in what I've been trying to do with my customers and my digital marketing agency is when they send me an email, I try to send them a response through Loom or whatever, leveraging video, because it's so much more. Even though you might not be there with them personally, it still gives that personal connection,
and
that
here
one-on-one
it is, right?
that they're really
we have a whole bunch of people reaching out to me for adventure workers right now. But this is like, if you take a look at our responses, people are suggesting new features. Other people are jumping in and helping each other. That's the most gratifying thing, is when people are helping each other with whatever they need, right? So I'm putting my own Calendly links in here. People are asking questions about what other things they can do. We love dogs. If you have a dog, definitely share your photo about that as well. This is what Clint's talking about. Me posting videos and being very much engaging with individuals. So it's just be human. That's at the end of the day, just be human. And this is kind of show you our traffic. This is kind of where we've in the last 2 months or so, we've definitely grown very, very significantly. 16,000, probably more than 16,000% now. But
that's wild.
That's how you get to where we are.
And that's the thing. It's so to get there, are you doing any paid advertising or So
we're doing about 40% of our revenue is coming from paid, and 60%, 55 to 60% is coming through organic, which is another thing we can talk about probably as a follow-on, is making sure that your content is ranking really well, that you're on every profile, literally everywhere, and you're optimizing every profile for ranking, right? We noticed that HelloWoofy did a lot better than just Woofy. We changed everything to HelloWoofy, and so we don't have to compete as hard for ranking on HelloWoofy. So if people search for our brand today, we already know the analytics. People are searching for Hello Space Woofy or HelloWoofy together. That's it. That's like the top 2 searches in Google when people are looking to reach out to us. Not social media, best social media platform, things like that. People are very much ingrained, and someone's telling them either through word of mouth marketing, or they're hearing about us through Facebook groups. Other people are referring us. Our majority, that's why we're doing so well organically, is because people are searching for it that way.
Okay. So yeah, people are searching direct for your name, which means that they've seen you somewhere before, right? They've either seen an ad and they kind of get around to checking you out, or word of mouth, which obviously is the most powerful thing. If you can get people talking about it, even just get one person to refer two other people, you start doing the math, and that's what gets numbers like I think what you're looking at.
Yep,
So
absolutely.
cool.
And you just have to be authentic. Like, it's not just about cranking up numbers, it's about making sure you're delivering
Hmm.
to each and every one of those customers.
Exactly. Yeah.
Arjun, I appreciate that, man. That was so informative, and again, like you always deliver in those times right there. But with that said, man, through your entrepreneurial journey, we got a few more questions before we wrap this up. But from the highs to the lows, everything you've experienced, from founding multiple companies through your journey, man, what has been the most difficult part about everything?
Just staying sane. um, Staying sane and positive. I'm like the ultimate optimist in terms of, like, any situation. I always try to spin it up. I was just talking to my writer, and she had written down, you know, make sure you're solving problems for your customers. We have a blog post coming up that we're working on in terms of, how you can build an engaging community online, right, and through Facebook. And one of the things she said, just briefly, is make sure you're solving problems, which absolutely makes sense. But then I was like, I'm the ultimate optimist. Let's say, make sure you're providing solutions. Make sure you're providing, a better way out. The light at the end of the tunnel. Don't tell them that you need a flashlight. Just literally just light up the entire tunnel and navigate them to the end. To get them out of wherever they're looking to get out of. Whatever situation. So it's things like that, and I drive my girlfriend insane all the time. It's like, I'm always, besides the dad jokes, I'm always saying, how can you spin it another way, and spin it in such a way that people are just walking away with this positivity. So that's probably the most important thing. The book The Secret, if you've never heard about it, from Rhonda Byrne, which is based off another book called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, kind of talks about mindset. And I think that one of the things I'll tell you, even before you do anything, control your mind. Be able to get that in control, because you could be your best friend or not, in terms of no matter what you're going through. And so I do recommend reading those books. The Audible or the audiobooks are great, and that'll be the foundation.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, as Arjun, as we wrap up this episode, if you could only leave our listeners with one piece of advice, what would that be?
There was a question someone else asked me a couple of weeks ago on a podcast, and he was like, what is the smallest decision you've made that has had the biggest impact? And I love that question, because I said, just going to a networking event where my investor needed a photographer because his photographer backed out last minute, and he knew I had a great camera, and meeting my girlfriend, and then being together for 3 years, and through the ups and downs, and her having her support me and everything. So I would say the one tip is finding the right people. Unfortunately, the co-founder I had, was a 6-year friend. Had to let him go. He wasn't ready for the startup life. He wasn't ready. He didn't have the experience, and what I thought I needed, I just had to crank it out on my own. I had to stop listening to the investors who never invested anyways, of saying that you need a co-founder, you need this, and you need that. And I was like, no, I'm going to grind away. I'm going to do two jobs, basically not sleep for a year and a half. And I mean, that's basically how we've gotten to where we are today. And I've tripled my investors' money in the last, few months or so. And it just shows that you don't listen to BS. There are so many investors out there that will invest in you. Disregard the ones that are telling you so many excuses. You'll find the right people, and that's as true as for personal life as it is for your business life, or just in friend circle.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Yeah, the people that you surround yourself with are massively important, and you know best, what you need for your business. So, and yeah, sometimes it does. You got to let people go. I've got a product-based business that there were 3 of us. Now there's 2, and it just happens, So, but yeah, that's awesome. I love that.
Well, guys, I think that's a wrap for this episode. And from the both of us, Arjun, we want to thank you for taking the time.
And I'll give you a virtual hug.
Man,
thank you so much to the two of you.
Awesome.
I always love the opportunity to share stories, but at least at least one person walked away from this, from your listener side that was inspired to do something great, right? And we'll hear about them in Forbes.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I love that mentality. And it was so great to talk to you. We'll definitely have to follow up. And this conversation sparked more questions. So, we'll definitely stay in touch, man. But
absolutely.
Guys, thank you so much for listening to That Entrepreneur Life. To learn more about what Arjun is working on, check out HelloWoofy.com. If you like what you heard today, make sure to subscribe to our podcast on iTunes or any other major podcast directory. You can also find us on all the socials and on our website at thatentrepreneurlife.com.
With that said, guys, we also want to quickly give a special shout out to our family and friends, to include all of our listeners, followers, and subscribers. If you find value in our show, please consider making a small donation. Even just a few dollars helps us keep things moving along and brings value to your entrepreneurial journey. Thanks for continuing to support what we do as entrepreneurs, guys. And don't forget to join us next week for another episode of That Entrepreneur Life.
Thanks for listening to That Entrepreneur Life podcast. Be sure to visit thatentrepreneurlife.com to join the conversation, access our show notes, and discover our fantastic bonus content. Don't forget to join us next week for another episode as we continue to add value. Until next time.